Welcome, everybody. My name is Angela Rasso. I'm with the New Mexico Environment Department Climate Change Bureau, and I'm excited to talk to you today about our large entity reporting requirement. So today we're going to start by doing an overview of the large entity reporting requirement, or LER, including background, who needs to report, which vehicles you should report, and then we'll go over how to get started on collecting the data that you will need for reporting, including which data to gather, how to use the optional helper spreadsheet, and how to use the large entity reporting portal. Finally, we'll go over how to enter data into the portal itself, including organization data, facility data, and vehicle data. And then we'll go over how to finalize and submit your report in the online portal, and go over resources, and hopefully at the end of this time we'll have some time to go over questions and answers. For some background on why we're doing this, burning fossil fuel for transportation is the second largest source of greenhouse gases in New Mexico and contributes significantly to air pollution in the state. In November of 2023, the Environmental Improvement Board and the Bernalillo County Air Quality Control Board jointly adopted, after a 4-day hearing, the new motor vehicle emission standards. These standards help ensure that New Mexicans have access to low and zero emission vehicles. Zero emission vehicles help improve local air quality and decrease New Mexico's contribution to greenhouse gas emissions. Unlike gasoline and diesel fuels, electric cars and hydrogen trucks do not have the potential to pollute critical water resources because of leaks and spills. Electric vehicles offer operators in New Mexico a lower total cost of ownership. For example, a fleet of 10 electric transit buses could save a municipality over $800,000 over a 20-year lifespan compared to diesel. However, especially in the medium and heavy duty vehicle space, benefits and costs and challenges of electrification and decarbonization vary quite a bit between applications. To help us with planning where and when decarbonization is feasible in New Mexico, and to plan what opportunities and needs there are for infrastructure, investment, and incentive programs, we are collecting data about how medium and heavy duty vehicles are used in New Mexico. This is part of the new motor vehicle emission standards as the large entity reporting requirement, which is a one-time reporting requirement for certain fleet owners and transportation providers. The large entity reporting requirement is a one-time only reporting requirement due to the New Mexico Environment Department by May 1st of 2025. This applies to medium and heavy duty vehicles only, and we are accepting reports through our online large entity reporting portal. The link to the portal is on your screen now and should shortly be in your chat for you to click on. Your report will include information about your organization, facilities that your organization operates in New Mexico and where vehicles are housed in New Mexico, and operation characteristics for how you operate medium and heavy duty fleets in New Mexico. We're also asking that you provide us with a list of VINs for medium and heavy duty vehicles in New Mexico so that we can minimize double counting of reports. Besides our webinar and question and answer session today, we are also hosting 3 office hours to answer your questions. Those will be this Thursday, April 17th from 9 to 10 a.m., next Tuesday, April 22nd from 10 to 11 a.m., and next Thursday, April 24th from 9 to 10 a.m. You can also reach out directly to us. Kayla Gustafson is our main point of contact for this requirement. You can call her at the phone number on the screen, or you can email the team at cleancarsnm at env.nm.gov. You can also find additional resources via the reporting portal or via the Climate Change Bureau's website at the URL on the screen. If you want to receive announcements about the large entity reporting requirement, please sign up for our listserv through GovDelivery. If you want to read the regulation, you can also find it on the State Records Center and Archives website. It is titled 20.2.91, and the large entity reporting requirement specifically is subpart 120. All right, so to get started on the details of who is required to report, the large entity reporting requirement only applies to medium and heavy duty vehicles, which is vehicles with a gross vehicle weight rating of greater than 8,500 pounds. We have a flowchart available on our website for you to confirm if you should complete a large entity report or not. For fleet and broker entities, if your organization has U.S. gross annual revenue of greater than 50 million in the 2023 or 2024 tax year, and you operated a facility in New Mexico, and you had at least one medium and heavy duty vehicle under common ownership and control in New Mexico in 2024 or January through April of 2025, you are required to report. In addition, if you were a fleet owner and you had 50 or more medium or heavy duty vehicles operating in New Mexico and a facility in New Mexico, you are required to report. Brokers and entities that dispatched 50 or more medium or heavy duty vehicles into New Mexico or through New Mexico and operated a facility in New Mexico in 2024 or January through April of 2025 are required to report. And finally, any federal government agency, state government agency, local government, including political subdivisions, are required to report any medium and heavy duty vehicles they used. The exclusions to this are that K-12 schools and school districts are not required to report. Entities that are required to report are not required to report emergency vehicles or military tactical vehicles. If you do not operate a facility in New Mexico, you are not required to report. And even if you are not required to report, you are allowed to volunteer information for our planning purposes. All right, so as you're reporting, we want you to give us information on medium and heavy duty vehicles. These are vehicles with a gross vehicle weight rating greater than 8,500 pounds. This begins at large pickup trucks and continues all the way through the very largest of vehicles, including tractors with sleeper cabs, dumps, and concrete mixers. You should not report light duty vehicles or light duty pickup trucks that are below Class 2B. Reporting does include on and off-road yard tractors, whether or not they're operated on-road. Vehicles domiciled or registered in New Mexico and vehicles that do their majority of miles in New Mexico should be reported. To get started with your reporting, we highly recommend that you use the optional helper spreadsheet that we're providing to collect and organize your data before you begin your report in the portal. When you enter the portal, there is a red box at the very top of the portal that looks just like this one, and there is a spot where you can download the helper spreadsheet. We recommend you use the helper spreadsheet because if you close or refresh your browser tab in the portal, any information you've entered will be lost. So since it may take you some time to gather the information needed, please fill out the spreadsheet and save it before you begin reporting. Once you've filled out the optional helper spreadsheet, you will be able to copy and paste from the helper spreadsheet into the large entity reporting portal. Again, we highly recommend that you utilize the spreadsheet to collect and analyze your data because the online report must be completed in one sitting. Once you have started entering data in the report, do not close the tab and do not refresh the tab or else you will lose your data. Once you've submitted information in the portal, you will certify your report and submit it. Let's talk about reporting. For your organization information, you will need to include contact information for a responsible party at your organization's primary NAICS number, your approximate annual revenue, your broker or motor carrier authority, your U.S. Department of Transportation number, as well as your New Mexico Department of Transportation number, which is sometimes known as a CERT number or a PRC number, your IRP number, and high-level information about how your organization operates, including the number of hired carriers for deliveries in New Mexico, if you have a corporate sustainability plan, and which vehicles your organization operates in New Mexico that are stationed or domiciled outside of the state. For brokers and motor carriers, we understand that you do not have all of the same information as an owner or operator would have. We do expect you to know the number of subhaulers you contract with in New Mexico to transport goods or other properties, the estimated number of vehicles operated by your subhaulers on your behalf in New Mexico, and the estimated number of vehicles operated by your subhaulers that operate under your motor carrier authority in New Mexico. Once you've filled out organization information, you will begin to fill out information about facilities you operate in New Mexico. This includes facility name, address, a contact person for each individual facility, the type of facility, whether the facility is leased or owned, any fueling infrastructure that's present at the facility, and if tractors are stationed at the facility, you will fill out information about the trailers that are on site at each facility. After filling out your facility information, you will report all of your vehicles grouped by the facility they are stationed at, as well as the body type and class of vehicle. For example, if you operated 5 gasoline Class 2B cargo vans in Las Cruces and 16 Class 3 diesel cargo vans in Albuquerque, you would report those as separate vehicle groups, despite the fact that they are both cargo vans. The reporting tool and optional helper spreadsheet will auto-populate a drop-down list of facility names based on the information you entered for your facilities. You will select a facility that each vehicle group is stationed at, select the vehicle group name, which is also the operational category, such as food and beverage distribution. Then select the vehicle body type, the fuel type for that group of vehicles, and the weight class. You will also include the number of vehicles for each group. Once you have entered information about a vehicle group or all of your vehicle groups, we will ask for analysis about how the vehicles are used. Here we show the selections that you can choose in the optional helper spreadsheet and in the reporting platform for your vehicle group name or operational characteristics, your vehicle body type, which weight class the vehicle is in, and the fuel type. After grouping your vehicles and entering information about how the vehicles were grouped, you will be asked about the daily and annual mileage. When answering mileage data, please do not include backup vehicles or vehicles that are not in operation. Mileage responses should be an estimate of the vehicles that are in use. When answering daily mileage question, you should apply the 9 out of 10 rule. For example, if a group of vehicles operates less than 100 miles per day for 7 out of 10 vehicles and less than 150 miles per day for the remaining vehicles, the best response for the vehicle is that it typically operates less than 150 miles per day. It would not be placed in the less than 100 miles per day bin because it does not operate less than 100 miles 9 out of 10 days. This question does not apply to brokers that do not own or operate the vehicles being dispatched. There will be multiple questions about the operations of each vehicle group. These questions should be answered by selecting the nearest 10% for each vehicle group. If 6 out of 10 vehicles in the group have a predictable use pattern, then you would select 60% in this field for the applicable vehicle group. Because these questions are answered to the nearest 10%, you will likely have to round to choose the nearest 10%. You will also be asked, do most vehicles in this group stay within 50 miles of their facility on a given day? This is a yes or no question based on whether most of the vehicles stay within 50 miles, the majority being 50% or more. So this should be answered based on whether a majority of the vehicles in the group operate within a 50-mile radius, at least 9 out of 10 workdays. You will also be asked what the highest approximate percent of the vehicle group that was dispatched at the same time over the last 3 years were to repair infrastructure on behalf of a government agency after an emergency. This question should be answered providing the response to the nearest 10% for each vehicle group. We also want to know how long your organization typically keeps vehicles for each group. Please respond to this in the number format for the number of years that your agents or your organization retains vehicles in each group. For each vehicle group, you will need to identify whether your entity is the fleet owner operator for this group of vehicles or if they are dispatched under your brokerage authority. Please select owner or broker. If you are neither the owner or the broker, please explain why you're reporting these vehicles in the comments section. You will also need to identify the start and end date of the analysis period. You can enter a date range for this, and the start date should be on or after January 1st of 2024, and the end date should be on or after April 30th of 2025. You should choose a date range that makes sense for the data available for your organization. It could align with annual, quarterly, or another time period that matches your records. For non-asset owning brokers, you should use an office location in New Mexico as a home base unless a local truck yard exists, which you have control over. You should report vehicle info from dispatch records and limit your responses to contract-specific information, including contract-specific mileage, weight info from dispatch records, and vehicle details from dispatch records. We, again, do not expect brokers to know all of the same information as an owner or operator would know, but we do want you to report whatever information is pertinent to your contracts and that you have access to. The final reporting requirement is a list of VINs that are included in your analysis. We will be using these VINs to sort and ensure that we are not double counting any records. Both the optional helper spreadsheet and the large entity reporting portal will check for valid VINs. You will not be able to submit your report if your VINs are invalid. Finally, let's go over some tips and tricks for using our online reporting portal and finalizing your report. In the online reporting portal, you should avoid pasting individual fields. Instead, please select an entire row in your helper spreadsheet and paste it as a row. If you try to paste an individual field, it may paste as an image rather than as text or as information. Also, please avoid clicking in the cells in the online portal twice, as if you were going to type. If you do this and then paste, it will paste multiple fields from your helper spreadsheet into one cell in the portal. Instead, click a single time in the portal, ensure that you cannot see the cursor blinking, and then paste. If the data you're reporting includes trade secrets or confidential information, please designate that your report includes this information by checking the checkbox that is on the online portal and describing the nature of the confidential information or trade secrets. This will ensure that NMED does not release it under an Inspection of Public Records Act request or other applicable law. Once you've completed your analysis and your data entry, you'll be asked to certify your report. You do so by checking this box. Below the certification, you will see a validation area. If you are seeing all green check marks, you can submit your report. If anything in the validation area is red, you will need to go back to your data entry and your reports to resolve any issues before you can submit the report. The New Mexico Administrative Code for the new motor vehicle emission standards and the large entity reporting requirement requires that responsible officials submitting reports shall maintain the records they used for the reports for 5 years after you submit the report. This includes notes on what information you used for your analysis, as well as any records that you used to gain data that were used in your analysis. This includes mileage records, dates, maintenance logs, vehicle logs, odometer readings, or any other information you used, as well as contracts, dispatch records, and vehicle registration records. You may also want to maintain any contracts with contractors, subcontractors, subhaulers, or other records with any information that you use to formulate your responses to the reporting requirement. NMED staff may request clarification on your reported data within that 5-year period. We will have, again, 3 office hours starting this Thursday, and then next Tuesday and the Thursday after. I encourage you to show up to the office hours to talk with us in person and get your questions on reporting and applicability answered. Alternatively, you can reach out to Kayla through her phone number on the screen, or reach out to our whole team through our email address. You should be able to see the links for all of these resources in the chat. Thank you all for attending. And we will shortly move to questions, but I want to make sure that we Let everyone know that you will receive a copy of this presentation, and this presentation will be posted to our website. And with that, I think we'll move to some questions. I'm going to ask Colt Vaughn, who's an environmental scientist with the Climate Change Bureau, to come on and read questions.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Angela. All right, so we've got some questions that came in with the webinar registration, and if you have other questions, please go ahead and post those in the questions box at the top of the webinar screen, and we'll try to address those. Okay, so we'll start with the first one. How does this reporting help inform future policies and funding opportunities?
We're really looking for opportunities in New Mexico for electrification. As I said earlier, there can be quite a bit of variability, especially in the medium and heavy duty vehicle space, on what benefits and costs and challenges are around decarbonizing transportation. So we're looking to really have a good understanding of how people are using medium and heavy duty vehicles in New Mexico before we move forward with planning for infrastructure needs and planning for targeted incentive programs.
Great, thank you. And a question from the city of Bloomfield, New Mexico. They said that they are a small municipality and they're not sure, or maybe they don't think they're required to report, but wanted to learn more and see if that is required.
So I want to clarify that this reporting requirement applies to all government agencies and political subdivisions in New Mexico. As long as you are a government agency, including federal, state, and local governments, including counties and municipalities, or a political subdivision of one of those, and you operate at least one medium and heavy duty vehicle, you are required to report.
All right, and we've got a couple of related questions here. One of them is, are electric cooperatives required to report fleet information?
I'm not sure about that one. Why don't you go ahead and email us at this email address to clarify that? It may depend on exactly how your electric co-op is set up.
And I would note that if your electric cooperative does have 50 or more medium and heavy duty vehicles, that would automatically put you into the reporting requirement category. Okay, and how does the large entity reporting requirement apply to oil and gas operators that lease vehicles?
So regardless of your type of business, if you operate, including leased vehicles, at least 50 medium or heavy duty vehicles in New Mexico, vehicles that do the majority of their miles in New Mexico, or are registered or domiciled in New Mexico, you're required to report. That includes leased vehicles. Also, if your company has total gross annual revenues of 50 million or more, and you have at least one medium or heavy duty vehicle that's registered or domiciled or does the majority of its miles in New Mexico, you are required to report whether or not that's an owned vehicle or a leased vehicle.
Okay, and we have two questions about the New Mexico Administrative Code, Part 91, referencing model year 2027 and subsequent years. The questions are essentially, why is the information being requested about the vehicles that may not be on the road today?
Right, so I understand it's confusing. The beginning of the subsection of the administrative codes for the large entity reporting requirement begins with referencing model year 2027 vehicles. However, that is largely for conformity with the rest of the rules, which apply to model year 2027 vehicles. We are asking that you report vehicles as they are being used within the reporting period, which is 2024 and January through April of 2025, regardless of the model year of the vehicles on the road.
Great, thank you. What is the definition of a medium or heavy duty vehicle?
So for this rule, the definition of medium and heavy duty vehicles, I have a slide, we'll go all the way back. The definition of medium and heavy duty vehicles is class 2B and above. So that is any vehicle with the gross vehicle weight rating of greater than 8,500 pounds should be reported for this rule.
And to clarify the types of vehicles that need to be reported, do those include things used in construction like dump trucks or long end dumps or belly dumps?
Yes, the construction industry has many medium and heavy duty vehicle types that have to be reported under this rule. I would hazard to say most construction vehicles would have to be reported under this rule.
Okay, another question is someone was trying to understand the applicability of this requirement to companies that have multi-state operations. Could you touch on that?
Yeah, so if you operate in New Mexico and you have a facility in New Mexico, and facility, when we use the word facility for this reporting requirement, we mean it in a very broad way. A facility could be an office. A facility could be a truck yard. As long as you have a leased or owned property with an address in New Mexico and operations in New Mexico, you'll need to report. And also at least one medium or heavy duty vehicle that operates in New Mexico. We're really trying to understand how medium and heavy duty vehicles are used in New Mexico, and that includes companies that have multi-state operations.
All right, and someone mentioned that they hire trucks through a broker to haul their materials to their job sites. Do those vehicles have to be accounted for by that company, or should the broker be reporting those?
So if you hire vehicles through a broker, the broker should be reporting those vehicles, and the owner or operator of those vehicles should be reporting those vehicles. You do not need to report if you are engaging the services of a broker to hire vehicles.
Are fire engines classified as emergency vehicles and thus not need to be reported?
Yeah, so the emergency vehicle exception is relatively broad. If you would like to reach out to us, feel free to. The New Mexico Department of Transportation has a definition of emergency vehicles that we're following. It does include fire trucks, would be considered emergency vehicles and wouldn't need to be reported.
Someone asked, do we have to report 3/4 ton pickup trucks?
3/4 tons. The 3/4 tons, we're going to have to do math here to get from tons to pounds. If the gross vehicle weight rating, which should be available in your vehicle information, is greater than 8,500 pounds, you have to report.
When it comes to vehicle applicability, are you only interested in vehicles that are registered in New Mexico? We have a fleet that moves across state lines, and some vehicles are registered in other states.
Yeah, so we would like you to report vehicles that are registered in New Mexico, vehicles that are stationed at a home base in New Mexico, and vehicles that do over 50% or more of their miles in New Mexico. There is also an option if you would like to report vehicles that do some of their miles but less than 50% of their miles in New Mexico, you are also welcome to report those. But it is not required if it is less than 50%.
Okay, and someone asked a specific question, I think, about the helper spreadsheet on the vehicle operation, the mileage. So how far back of usage do we need to report? Some usage data is not available prior to GPS devices being installed.
Right, so you can choose the time period you are doing the analysis for. As long as that time period is sometime included between January 1st of 2024 and April 30th of 2025, you can choose when you have the best data and easily obtainable records for. And in your case, it sounds like that might mean after the installation of GPS in your vehicles.
Okay, if we have vehicles at another state that stay in that state, do we have to report those vehicles?
You are not required to report vehicles that are not registered in New Mexico and do not have their home base in New Mexico and do not operate in New Mexico. In fact, please don't report vehicles that don't meet any of those categories because it's not New Mexico specific data at that point.
All right, for entities with subsidiaries, is each subsidiary required to report separately, or should the parent company submit a comprehensive report?
I think that is going to be up to the subsidiaries and the parent company to determine the best way to report the data. If the parent company has all of the information and would like to submit a single report, you're welcome to. If your subsidiaries have the information and there's not an ability to gather that data onto the parent company level, you're also welcome to have each of your subsidiaries submit a report.
Someone asked, how do maintenance yards factor into facility locations as part of county operations, for example?
Maintenance yards. That's a good question. I would encourage you to go ahead and include maintenance yards in your facility information. And if you don't have vehicles that are typically stationed or home based out of that maintenance yard, you don't have to attribute any vehicle groups to that facility.
Okay, and we've received a few more questions. We've already addressed this one, but maybe because we keep getting it, I'm gonna just pose it one more time. So our company dispatches other subcontractors but uses their dispatch. Do we still need to count these trucks towards the 50 minimum threshold?
Ooh, okay. Sorry, can you repeat that one? That's getting a little complicated.
Sure. Our company dispatches other subcontractors but uses their dispatch. Do we still count the trucks toward the number of greater than or equal to 50 vehicles?
I think, yes, if you have broker authority for those vehicles, you should count them towards your 50 vehicles. I'm going to ask the person who asked that question to go ahead and send us an email as well, though, so we can follow up and clarify. We'll go back to the email address.
Okay. Is there a penalty for not completing the report? And what if we cannot complete the report by the May 1st deadline?
Yeah, we understand this is going to be short notice for some organizations. May 1st is just about 2 weeks from now. Our emphasis in this reporting requirement is good data collection and compliance assistance. So if you feel like you cannot report by May 1st, please reach out to us so we can work with you on when you will be able to get your report in.
Okay, and I'm only seeing one more question, and we may need a little bit of clarity around this, but the question that was asked, is the 50 CMV number a daily number or an annual number?
50 CMD number.
CMV. I think that's the minimum number that they're asking about, but I'm not sure.
Oh, the 50 vehicles for being required to report?
Yeah, is that a daily or an annual number?
If you had common ownership and control, let's go to our requirements. So if you had 50 or medium and 50 or more medium and heavy duty vehicles, I think at one time. Though I think that probably the answer to that, if you had common ownership and control at one time of 50 medium and heavy duty vehicles, or if you dispatched annually 50 or more medium and heavy duty vehicles. So the answer to that question depends on if you're an owner operator or if you are a broker or dispatching entity.
All right, we've got a few more questions coming in here. The company operated last year and then sold most of the trucking and transportation fleet off. Do we still need to report for that company that wouldn't meet the requirement now due to the fleet size and revenue thresholds?
Yes, if you met these thresholds at any point in 2024 or January through April of 2025, you should report.
All right. If you've got more questions, please go ahead and post those. We'll try to address them. The last one we have for now. Someone says, we just did this exercise for the state of Colorado, which included almost all of the exact same information. However, the report allowed us to use 2023 data. Is there room to align these two reporting programs?
Great question. So Colorado, I've talked to them and I am aware that they have just done this requirement. Their deadline was back in November, so they could not use 2024 data. We are asking that you do the most recent data available, which would be for 2024 or January through April of 2025. And to further that question a little bit, you should be reporting to us specific data that is specific to your vehicles in New Mexico. So even if we were to align the reporting period, you would still have to do the analysis specifically or separately for New Mexico and Colorado.
All right. Someone from a water authority is asking, under the vehicle group, which options should they choose to categorize themselves?
Oh, that's a very
I
specific
think I can
question.
help answer this question. I think you want to choose other, and you want to specify in the comments.
Yeah. If for almost everything that has a drop-down menu, if one of the drop-down menus does not apply to you, you should specify in the comments the answer.
If there are some fields that we do not know the answer to, can we leave them blank and leave a note?
It's going to depend on the specific field. If you do not know the answer, you should try to get the answer first. And there's various sources of information you might be able to find it. Feel free to reach out to us for assistance on where you might be able to find that information. If that information is just not available, it hasn't been recorded, then yes, you should put in the comments that the data was not available or was not recorded.
Okay, and
and actually, sorry,
sure.
to follow up on that, because that is also very specific to often brokers and dispatchers don't have a lot of the information we are looking for. So if you're a broker and or a dispatcher and it's not information that's in your contracts or in your logs, you should leave the field blank.
Okay, this one is a long question, but I think it's an important one. The NMAC mentions that most ag equipment would be exempted from the reporting requirement. That also includes heavy equipment such as cranes that might be driven on the highway but are not titled pieces of equipment under the DMV statute. Does the new reporting requirement exclude all heavy equipment such as loaders and crawler cranes operated on lease locations?
So agricultural equipment is exempted from the other portions of the new motor vehicle emission standards, including tailpipe emission standards and zero emission vehicle delivery requirements, I believe. I don't believe agricultural equipment is exempt from reporting. If you want to send us an email to follow up, we can follow up with you.
Okay, someone says we have one company with one owner with 24% common ownership only. Are we required to include that company?
I think if you have 24% common ownership, if you have control, because it's common ownership and control, you would report. If you do not, then you would not report.
Okay, and yeah, I think we've addressed this one as well, but maybe highlight it one more time. Someone asks, what is the penalty for not completing the report?
So this is part of administrative code and is subject to compliance, enforcement and compliance actions. But again, we really are focusing on getting good data collection out of this report. So to any extent we can, we really want to be offering you compliance assistance and getting you in for these reports.
Okay, I'm not seeing any other additional questions coming in. I'll ask our webinar organizers to weigh in if there are more questions, but if not, then we may be done.
All right. Well, in absence of any questions, I'm going to invite everyone again. We'll go back to our information about our office hours. If, as you are gathering information, you come up with more questions, please come to our office hours or call Kayla or send us an email. We are here to assist you with formulating your report and answer your questions. And thank you all for attending today.
Angela, we do have one more question if you want to take it.
Oh, we'll hop in and do a last minute question. Go ahead.
Okay, someone says, can you clarify the meaning of providing direction or instruction for routing a vehicle under the definition of dispatched for purposes of determining reporting applicability for a broker or entity that's dispatching more than 50 vehicles? For example, would this apply to an entity that requested delivery of products?
I would think it would not apply if you are requesting delivery. Go ahead and send us an email though, because that's a little bit in the weeds of the definition. So we might have to go through and make sure we're answering your exact question exactly.
Okay, and we got one more. Someone asked, how do employee-owned companies fall into this? Are they treated any differently?
Employee-owned companies are not treated any differently. If you meet the gross revenue or number of medium and heavy duty vehicle requirements, you are required to report.
Okay, I think that's officially all of them.
Thank you everyone for attending today. Again, please attend our office hours and we hope to see you there and we hope to see your reports.